What affects conversion rates on Amazon? This is my product. It has a 42% conversion rate. I'm actually going to reveal the data behind this and walk you through various elements so you can better understand what affects conversion rates on Amazon. My name is Stephen Pope. I'm the founder of My Amazon Guy, and I put out videos like this to help you grow your sales on Amazon. So whenever I talk about sales growth on Amazon, I break it down into kind of two specific areas. So on one hand, we've got traffic generation, which is everything from PPC and SEO. And on the other hand, we've got design and catalog work. So in today's video, we're going to dive into the catalog and design work, which affect the conversion rate. You're welcome to replicate this on your side as well. Type in wine glass into Amazon. So if you scroll down right here, this wine glass right here is currently in rank organic slot number 3. I'm often in slot number 1. And this shows you that I know how to rank a product. This is obviously a really high velocity search term. As you can see on this screen right here, it's 28,417 search volume on a monthly basis. And that's a big term. Most niche terms are going to be averaging under 1,000 search volume, maybe some popular ones 2,000 to 5,000. So at 28,000, this is going to put it in the top tier percentage of search terms. The reason I bring this up is because if you look at my data, right, and this is my actual sales data for the month of January. So I have sold $16,000 in gross sales on this, with more than, let's see here, 2,400 sessions, 3,500 page views, and over 1,000 units ordered. And if you look at the unit session percentage, this is how many units are sold versus how many pages are viewed, essentially equates to what's called the conversion rate. It's at 42%. That's an exceptionally high conversion rate. And so I get asked all the time, like, how do I improve my conversion rate, Stephen? And so I go through a lot of conversations around this. So we're going to walk through all this. I wanted to kind of show you that I know what I'm talking about because I've had this success, so you can believe me. So now we're going to go to the actual detail page. There's a variety of things that can affect conversion rate. First of all, photos seem to be the most impactful of anything else in terms of conversion rate. And that's because when somebody looks at an item, they want to understand what they're buying. And I like to give it like the 5-second litmus test, right? So if you're looking at a main image of an item, if you can't figure out what it's doing, what its main feature is, what you're buying in under 5 seconds, it fails the litmus test. So if you are struggling with your conversion rate, the first thing I would look at is what does my image and my page display? Now, obviously, main image could also affect your click-through rate even before they get to the listing. But once they land, they're going to be analyzing a bunch of other information. So price is probably one of the second most impactful things after photos. And price is going to impact conversion because if somebody is selling a similar item for less money, they are more likely to convert the user than I am. Amazon is very much a platform of race to the bottom in terms of price. We've seen a lot of factors affecting price being pushed down, right? So we're seeing a lot of the companies and agencies that support Amazon sellers are highly focused into China right now. And what that's going to do, it's going to cut out all the middleman, right? Retailers, brand owners in the States, and Chinese sellers are going to go direct to the consumer. This is going to bring the price down even further. Now, I'm not going to speak about it in this video, but of course, it's very difficult for Chinese sellers to market as well as Americans who understand culture. But nonetheless, cheap commodity items we're probably going to see those price pressures make it very difficult to have margins on Amazon as a seller. And so if you're in that boat and your prices are too high, then you probably want to seek refuge in alternative product categories where you don't have price pressure. There are many examples I could give on commodity items, but basically anything that is easy to make and small. So your kitchen gadgets, right, like a spoon, anything like that, plastic, ice cube trays, these are all commodity items that somebody in China could manufacture and go to market with very easily. So whenever you have a price issue, if you've got plenty of traffic to your listing and you're not converting them, you could easily test just simply lowering the price to see if that will improve your conversion rate. If it doesn't, then it's not price, right? So like it's a very black and white, like either price reduction improves conversion rate or it doesn't. If the price reduction does not improve the conversion rate, then you have a bigger problem, and it's a problem that's not related to price. I have another video that I'll link to where I did a dollar decrease test, and I actually reveal all the data behind the dollar decrease test 30 days before and after. And what I found from that particular exercise in my wine glass category is it did not affect conversion rate in any shape or form. So I ended up raising my prices back to get that extra dollar of margin. So sometimes lowering your price has no impact on conversion rates. And sometimes raising your prices also has no impact on conversion rates, but it's still very present and something to consider. The next thing I'll talk about is reviews. So in reviews, you'll notice that my item here has almost 1,500 reviews with 4.8 stars out of 5, which is an exceptionally high review count. An average listing on Amazon in 2021 has 4.1 star average reviews. And if you have enough reviews, you can round up or down, right? So if you're at 4.5, you can round up to 5 out of, excuse me, if you're at 4.7 or higher, you'll round up to 5 stars. And if you're at 4.3, you'll round up to 4.5 stars. And so it's very important that you try and maintain a 4.3 at the very least, because a 4.5 has a much higher conversion rate than does going down to 4 stars. I have another video where I talk about a Profitero report where it goes into the very specific impact of reviews. I'll link that here. The next thing that can affect conversion rate is the title. The title, often the case, it's better to have a short title for conversion, but a long title for traffic generation through SEO. And so this is where you have friction between the traffic and the conversion elements, right? So these two worlds where you got traffic on the left and conversion on the right, they frequently will have friction between each other, and you have to marry the two whenever possible. So SEO is the bane of conversion because you're stuffing keywords and whatnot, and you have to figure out the right traffic to convert. So your traffic strategies very much have an intersection between the two. So in this particular listing, I have opted for a shorter title than average. Often the case, I would be filling this title up with various keywords, but it's not necessary because this listing is in its maturity phase. It's at its best it's ever going to be. It probably can only go downhill from here. And so because of that, I've opted for a shorter title, knowing that that could impact my SEO. However, if I'm already in organic slot 3 for terms like wine glass, I don't really care if a couple hundred keywords are impacted a few rankings. I'm maintaining wine glass slot 3, so I would be better off focused on conversion rate. So that's why I have a shorter title here. So things that I would put here normally would be like gifts for her or quarantine and a bunch of other words that would be applicable to help with SEO, and I've opted for a shorter title in this particular instance. So if you are struggling with your own conversion rate, one of the things you might want to do is run an A/B test on your title. Amazon has a great tool for this. So if you go over into Seller Central, put your cursor on advertising, go to the A+ Content Manager, you'll see that there's an A/B test section here. Now, not everybody has access to this, but I think predominantly most people do at this stage. Some of your ASINs may qualify for an A/B test. And in here, you can see I've previously run an A/B test on this item back in August. You can view the results to see like which one does better. And this was a test that had a very slight preference for version A. Now, I was running a lower conversion rate back when this test was run back in August, so I'm actually doing a lot better now on conversion than I was previously. But when you run an A/B test like this, you run it for 4 weeks, and it will then spit out a probability of what it thinks is the better converting product. So you can see here version A had a better probability by 69%, and it'll analyze it basically on the number of units per visitor, the conversion rate, the units sold, as well as the sales, and then it'll give you a sample size. So this was a very hefty sample size, almost 400,000 people in this particular sample size. But this particular version had a $300 edge, and almost, about, what is that, 24 units or so? Yeah, 20. I guess it shows the difference in the bottom here. So a 24 unit edge on this, which is just enough to make version A better. And so it shows like the incremental sales value. So like best case scenario, if I go with version A, I might earn an extra 35,000, but most likely it's more like 7,200 on the year. So this is, I believe this is an annual summary of it. And then it gives a worst case scenario as well. So even if you pick version A, you could be misled by Amazon and your sales could actually go down. So it tries to give you like that variable. But when you got something like this and it's at 69%, it's almost guaranteed to be better. So running additional tests would make sense. And you can see right here, I think these are standard deviations in how they're calculating this. So 97% of the time, the actual impact will be worse than this. 50% of the time, the actual impact will be worse than this. And then 2.5% of the time, it'll be worse than this. So the likelihood of these scenarios playing out will probably be somewhere in the middle. Probably 8 to 10,000 would be my guess on the impact of this test. This particular test, in what I did, you can see the Title A right there and Title B version right there. And it's pretty subtle. So I'm not drinking alone. I'm social distancing is the same. Funny stemless wine glass is the same. And then the difference is that I cut the word drinking glasses and wine tumblers right there. And by cutting that and simplifying it, it gave me more sales. So as you can see, I extrapolated from that, and then I actually decreased my title length, and it made me more money. So that's a direct scientific method behind that conversion rate, making a difference on title. All right, next let's talk about the secondary images. Quick side note as well on pricing. You'll notice here I have a 7% save off of, and that's because I've lowered the price down from $14.99 when I had it higher in the December rush, trying to gain some momentum in January to try and hold some of my edge. So I've gone back down to $13.99. In testing this probably is a poor move on my part, but because I can get that 7% flag, I've gone ahead and done it. But I'm probably going to lose $1,000 by doing that. It probably won't benefit me in any shape or form to have a lower price right now. So I will probably go back up to $14.99 as soon as the 7% flag is deflated, which will happen in the next week or so at time of the shooting. All right, so now let's go over to secondary images. So this is kind of like, I don't know, our fifth element, if you will. And secondary images can have a massive impact. So one of my favorite metaphors to use is whenever you're trying to figure out your particular target demographic, if I was going to be selling a toothbrush, my target demographic is not everybody who has teeth, right? Like that's not a target demographic. If I'm selling a Russian mail order bride, and this is a silly metaphor, it's memorable, right? But if I'm going to sell a Russian mail order bride, my target demographic is 3-time divorce truck drivers. And that's because they're the most likely candidates to make that purchase. Highest conversion rate, target demographic. So whenever you're thinking about your product, you need to figure out who your target demographic is. And the reason that's important is because in my demographics, which you can analyze in the brand analytics dashboard, I skew heavily to female. There's also some other fun brand analytics that you can see. So like, for example, the same wine glass we're looking at right now, I own the highest click-through rate for the term fun wine glass, which Amazon is giving me organic slot number 1 for. because I earn those clicks. Like, so just like you've clicked on this video because I put up an okay YouTube thumbnail, you would click on this wine glass because it is considered fun by the audience. So there are other demographics you can see in the analytics as well. To get to this location, you would put your cursor over brands, brand analytics, and then click on the demographics icon. This allows you to connect your target audience more effectively or identify customization opportunities with customer demographic insights. So they give you age, household income, education, gender, and marital status. These are things that will help you understand who your consumer is and who it's not. And the reason this is important is because once you understand who your target demographic is, you can better convert them. Now, what this doesn't show you is the truck driver, 3 times divorced, super target, but it does give you some directional help here. So I skew 25 to 35-year-olds pretty heavily as compared to these other demographics. So somebody under 24 basically doesn't pay attention to my item in any shape or form. Then we look at gender, and in here you can see I skew 71% female. So if I were showing pictures of men, that'd be a huge problem, right? And so when we had another product for a hemp cream selling on Amazon, initially when we went to market with this hemp cream a couple years ago, and I'm just going to type in hemp cream, we thought that we were going to be targeting sports and people that would use this after fighting in the ring, arena, workout, whatever. Well, it turns out the common demographic for hemp cream had nothing to do with sports athletes, and instead it was usually 55 to 65-year-old women with arthritis. And so when we figured that out, the product that we were working on, we ended up changing out the secondary images away from sports and athletics, and we focused them in on old women who were riding bikes and just trying to get around the house and whatnot. So that's kind of how you would use this analytics and figure this out, right? Like that's a case example of why knowing females are your target demographic instead of male. Age demographics as well can be very helpful, as well as marital status. So 60% married, 10% single. So it's not the single ladies picking up these items. It's typically married women who just need to, have a glass of wine to relax after the day. And then you can kind of look through and figure out who orders what and why. So that's the brand analytics. I think the most important thing is probably age and gender in making some of those determinations. So that way when you're building out, let's go back to the wine glass listing here. So that's why I chose what could be perceived as, I don't know, maybe a young 30-year-old who's attractive. Now, this particular photograph is purely just a stock photo where we've inserted the wine glass over it, right? So, I want to be very clear in my examples today. I don't put a lot of effort behind my Momstir brand. 99% of my time goes towards my agency, my Amazon guy. So, some of the improvements that could be made on my listing would be to put more real photos of women using my product. But mind you, by showing you that I have a 42% conversion rate, it clearly doesn't matter in my particular category. Other categories, this will matter a lot more. And so as you look at your conversion rate and you compare against your competitors, you can figure out where you need to invest. So it makes a lot more sense for me to spend more time on my clients, and that's why I don't have really great secondary images. But I do have ones that pass the litmus test, right? So I have a product that shows information. So this is high quality, durable. It's mom approved, right? 15 ounce, made in the USA. We run these wine glasses through basically a firing process that makes it so it's dishwasher safe and it's microwave safe. And so the ink that's put onto each glass is going to be long serving. So somebody and I've personally put these wine glasses through the dishwasher dozens and dozens of times. They literally never fade, and so that's a big feature. And so we want to expose that, right? And then the review counts that you see here are going to reflect that because people expect to run this through the dishwasher. So if I was selling a wine glass that wasn't dishwasher safe, I have a big disadvantage on conversion rate because that is something that people are most definitely looking for. But most of my other secondary images are a little on the weaker side. Like this one's probably my weakest glass. It literally just has wine in it, and that's the only difference. Now, one of the things that you could do to see if how click-through rating or conversion rate can be affected is you could swap your main image, right? So if I wanted to test my main image with or without wine, I could just simply switch these two shots back and forth to see what kind of impact that would make, not only on my click-through rate in the search results, but once people get to the listing, what kind of impact that would make. The next thing I'll mention is videos. Now, I've uploaded 3 videos for this particular listing. And you'll notice, like, look, there's only like 3. I just put it up. I just hit the thumbs up on my own listing. A little, so you can see it's got 4 upvotes and 1 downvote here. This particular video, I wouldn't say anything special about it, right? Like we're just doing some shots that kind of zoom in and out. A little bit, maybe a little bit of banana for scale. I am showing some wine being poured in it, which is helpful context. But I wouldn't say it's like special. This particular video is probably even less special than the one before, and it's literally just a render of the glass going in a circle with a couple of key features exposed. The view counts on videos are ridiculously low, but increasingly more important on Amazon because my personal prediction, I think we're going to see Amazon show video ads off of the Amazon platform in locations like Twitch, which will bring you external traffic to your listing. So video is increasingly important. I have one third video here. It's not even of the actual wine glass. This was my first rendering, you know, kind of got it off Fiverr kind of thing. And it was just to show the wine glass on all of my listings so I could get a base video up. And you know, you can see here 0 upvotes, 1 downvote. So I probably should remove this third one. It's doing me no good here, especially with a couple of superior videos. But the point I'm trying to make here is that videos, while they don't get a lot of clicks, they actually do improve your conversion rate. Just simply by showing up with a video, that could make a couple of points on your conversion rates. And for the people who actually do view them, your conversion rate doubles, right? So let's say my baseline conversion rate is 20%, but somebody who watches the video, it will double to 40%. So it actually makes a pretty big dent. Now, while not a main focus of this particular video, notice I've got a lot of parentage involved on my wine glasses. Now, most categories no longer share reviews. This particular category currently does share reviews across variations, which is why I have more variations than are probably necessary or potentially even a good idea. Generally speaking, once you have a couple of good takeaway items on your listing, let's say two good variations, you often want to break those out from each other because you get more search results when you have listings that are broken apart from each other and not together. But in this particular instance, because of the combined reviews and because this parentage has been so long standing, it's better for me to keep everything together. The other thing I'll note here is you'll notice on the color variation, I threw the letter A on here, and that's because I wanted my best seller to show up in the in the search results. And I'll demonstrate why this is important. So if you go over to the wine glass category, so this is the 45th most selling wine glass on Amazon, the #1 funny wine glass. And as you scroll down here, so you can see in slot, let's see, 44 right here. So you can see because I put that as the first variation, that's what shows up in the top rankings, which increases my likelihood to convert and click because it's my best seller. If you don't know, when variations, they all default to alphabetical, right? So when you're on your listing, this is all alphabetical, and so it's alphabetical by color or by size name. So if you want to order this, there's a couple of things that you can do, including putting like numbering system. Amazon doesn't really like that. And the only one that I fudged here was just this one glass because I wanted this particular one to show up in the front. So this, by the way, this is some of my best trade secret stuff, right? Like I've just given this away like this, and I do that freely. So if you don't have an Amazon consultant yet, you should check me out at myamazonguy.com. We do have on-demand coaching as well as full service. Mind you, I'm giving out my best stuff freely. Imagine what we can do to grow your account. All right, so let's talk bullet points next. So in here, the most important bullet point is number 1. You have to write unique copy on this, guys. I know we're all lazy human writers who don't like to write copy, but I can't tell you how important copy has become on Amazon. This main bullet point here can be a very, very impactful message to the consumer as to the value proposition of why they should buy your item. Now, I did do bullet points after all of these other elements, and that's because it is not as impactful as everything else we've covered so far, but it's still very impactful. So I highly recommend that you take very careful writing on your main bullet point, because it has a drastic impact on the consumer deciding like whether to buy your product. Now, in the gift category, I'm focused on like, hey, you know, while you're staying away from your friends in these tough times, you know, give them something to cheer them up, right? Or, you know, cheer yourself up, quite frankly. A lot of times people will buy gifts for themselves because they want to feel better. Aspirational things like that, that's kind of the main focus of the emotion that you're trying to archetype inside of the copy. Now, if you're selling a technical product, many of you are, it's very important that your technical product is easy to market and understand, right? So like if I was selling hummus ice cream, I know that kind of sounds nasty, right? But like you could go, and this is a true story, by the way. I was coaching somebody and they told me that they were trying to sell hummus ice cream at some sort of food event or fair, and people would come up, they'd look at the hummus ice cream and they'd look back at the person selling the hummus ice cream and they'd be like, what do you do with it? And the guy, like the third or fourth time somebody asked him this, he got so fed up and he's like, you effing eat it. And like, but like people need to be told what to do with your product, right? Like I love the hummus ice cream story because it easily articulates that like what you think is obvious to your product is not obvious to the consumer. And you have a litmus test. I like to use the 5-second litmus test. Like if you haven't told them in the title and the first bullet and your imagery, like what you do with the product or what the main feature it is of it, and make it so it's so common language that somebody can understand it in 5 seconds, then you're missing a huge conversion opportunity. So that's why it's so important. The other bullet points are not nearly as important as the first one. Most best practices currently in most categories is to use some capital letters like this for the fast readers who just want to read like the bullets in speed reader fashion, right? So you've got the ability to read that in like 5 seconds. Social distancing, gift kit keeps giving, top quality, dishwasher safe, money back guarantee. Now, a couple of notes here. In many categories, I personally predict we're going to see a crackdown on using the word guarantee. I think you should stop using that word, especially if you're in a category that's medical, topical, consumable. I would avoid using the guarantee statement. That's probably going to affect suppressions on your listings in the near future. Now, the other thing I would say is like money back guarantee. Those kinds of statements are probably going to go away this year on Amazon. And I'll probably have to rewrite my copy. Now, the reason I haven't done it yet is because I actually kind of like to know when I see category changes on my own listings. It helps me understand like what's coming to my clients at my Amazon Guy. And so I will tend to leave things and react to the market and be told in real time. That way I can help my clients react to it as well. But in many instances, you have to make a business decision on your side onto whether you're going to be reactive or proactive to changes on Amazon. And it often makes a lot of sense to be reactive, and sometimes it makes sense to be proactive. And that's because on reactive things, like if you're trying to avoid your listing being yanked, suppressed, taken down from being sold, it actually often will make sense to be proactive. But when it's something like when Amazon announced that they're going to take the title attribute down from 200 characters down to 50 characters, there's no way I would ever be proactive on something like that. And the reason is because like 7 days later, they're like, just kidding. We're not going to make you take your title down to 50 characters after all. And so a lot of people who were proactive, who made those changes, they lost a lot of revenue and sales and conversion and keyword data. And so be proactive only in areas where you're convinced or really uncertain that Amazon will yank or take down listings. All right, so we're scrolling down now. We're to the product description. This is what's called A+ content. If you don't have a trademark yet, small plug for trademarks, you can file a trademark and get brand registry in under 7 days now. Let's say you've already got a trademark for one brand. Well, this year is a great opportunity to launch a second brand. And so this is new information for most people. You can now get your brand registry in under 7 days with Amazon. And so if you file that with me, you no longer need the IP Accelerator. I'm the cheapest trademark service on the internet for the speed that's delivered. Check us out for $775 to file a trademark. All right, so A+ content. You get your trademark, you get your A+ content. Notice here how much copy there is. Incredible amounts of copy. Again, this is the keyword stuffing SEO techniques. Each one of these photos also, if you inspect the element, it has keywords behind it. Now, Amazon does claim they don't index A+ content, but I know they're liars because I've put Spanish behind one specific keyword and I didn't put Spanish anywhere else, and my listings absolutely ranked and indexed for Spanish. So if you want my advice, definitely put lots of copy into your A+ content and put it into the keywords attribute of your photo. You have 100 characters that you can put behind each photo on your A+ content, and it makes a big difference. The other thing I'll note here is I'm taking a lot of space with the A+ content, right? So this is my favorite module in A+ content called the product grid. The product grid allows us to look at your other products. So for some of you, having an A+ content with like a good, better, best model would make a lot of sense, right? Like you got a $50, $100, and $1,000 unit. What am I getting the difference between those units? Well, for $50, I'm getting the commodity good that just does the job, right? So for the $100 though, maybe it has an electronic component. And for the $1,000, maybe it's automated and it's a robot, right? So those are the kinds of things that you can articulate. For if you don't have a good, better, best model, maybe you just have lots of variations that you want to showcase, right? So I can show, maybe I want to show my other best sellers. Maybe I want to show products that I just launched. These are opportunities for you to merchandise your products, and you can click on these. Like I can actually click on my Grandma Shark wine glass, go over to this particular item, and you can see all my variations for this as well. So that can make a really big difference on increasing your average order value. Not only your conversion rates, but your average order value as well. And in e-commerce, like our main job as e-commerce sellers is to sell more products to more people more often for more money. And frequently, most people do end up forgetting that fourth one, right? Like the concept of selling more products to more people more often for more money is really important, because if you're selling to your product at a higher price, or you're selling more of your product, you get that more money component, and average order value makes a lot of sense. So not only do I take a lot of space, I have lots and lots of copy. Now, I can tell you that we have A/B tested doing less copy against higher amounts of images, and it absolutely makes a big impact on conversion rate to have bigger images. But remember, I'm showing you a high velocity item at 42% conversion rate with lots and lots of copies. So clearly it's not detrimental to a listing. Now, I would probably have a loss of revenue to remove the copy and to put in bigger images. And so that's why I won't be doing that. But there's really nothing special about my imagery, right? Like I'm not even showing my product in this shot. This is just a regular stock image, right? So like there's a lot of things I could be doing in my A+ content to really push the product farther, and instead I'm just kind of showcasing I got lots of items that they can gift out, and there's always an item for every person among that. But nonetheless, I do have a really good face shot where you got a smile, they're looking at the camera. These sort of things will improve your conversion rates and be very helpful. The other reason this improves your conversion rate by taking up a lot of space is because as you scroll down, look at these comparison shots. I'm competing against these other products. Now look at that guy. He's selling his product for $1 less, and so like somebody could scroll down and see that. But if I've taken a lot of room here, I'm adding friction into the sales process on purpose, because I don't want them to go down a rabbit hole of a competing product. And my hope is that by giving them fatigue from scrolling down, that they're like, okay, this is my item. They scroll to the top and they hit the add to cart or buy now button, right? That can be very, very beneficial. Now, a couple of things that don't impact conversion rate, specifically things you don't have control over, is what I like to call friction and anxiety on a listing. So when it comes to friction is where you're trying to click and like figure out like, how do I check out? Like, how do I find the add to cart button, right? So if you have a website where you've ever been to and you're like, I can't even figure out how to check out, that's a great case example of friction. Anxiety is like, do I trust these guys with my credit card? Right now, Amazon has solved both friction and anxiety, like outright. Like they are the best in the market for solving those two things. So that's why conversion rates on Amazon are usually 3 times better than your own Shopify website. So those are things you don't have to think through or factor in when you're trying to improve your conversion rate. And instead, you can try and factor in on the title, the photos, the bullet points, the parentage, the A+ content, the graphics, and the copy. Right? So if you focus in on those things, you're going to be way better off in improving your conversion rate. And of course, if you run the math, if we go back to the business report here, if you were to calculate like what the difference of a conversion rate improvement would be, right? So let's say I could get up to 50% conversion rate. So let's just copy all this data in here and go one SKU down, one row down here. And let's say I was going to take the conversion rate up to 50%. And if we were to back the data out, we would hit equals the number of units ordered, right? So that would be that J3 right there, times that by the, actually, excuse me, we're gonna have to do a little bit of math here. All right, play with my formulas there for a second. So on average, I'm getting $15.55 an order with tax and everything else that's coming in on this particular data set here. So if we go in and we bump our conversion rate up to 50%, so instead of getting 1,032 units, I'm gonna get 1,222 units. Then we're gonna change our revenue from our 1555 times the number of units, and that would increase my revenue by, it looks like, almost $3,000. So that's the impact of conversion rate, right? Like, and that was a significant lift of 8%, and that's a really big increase, right? So if we were to take 42%, divide that by 50, we're going up 16 percentage points in difference between the two, and so. That's the impact of conversion rate. That's why it's so important. And so if you were to take this video and try and convince somebody else on your team, like if we make this one tweak on our detail page, we can improve our conversion rates by 3%, and look what that could do on the revenue. And now you can replicate that. You can go in and say, hey, I made these changes. Here's an A/B test on the A+ content we made. We put in a smiling photo of a woman, and that improved our conversion rates by 2%. And here's the outcome of the revenue. That's why conversion rate improvements are so important on Amazon and can be very helpful. All right, so that's conversion rates. I have other video content I'd like you to look at next on traffic generation on Amazon.